Hey everybody, what is up? Today we are going to talk about Zachary. He is an attack elite. He's one of the first champs that the game gives you when you start an account. And I'm gonna be honest, I don't think he gets enough love. I think there's too many people hating on Zachary, and I'm tired of it. So we're gonna do a guide on him today and show him off. I think he's well worth the investment, especially if you're a free-to-play player. If you are spending money and you're going to be pulling shards and pulling champs quicker, you might luck up and pull a Valeria or another nuker that could replace him. But as far as being given a champ early in the game that's going to do you a lot of good, he's great. And this is my elites only account, so I'm not using legendaries, I'm not using epics. So I have to lean on him a little bit harder than I would in another account. And in having to do that, I've realized I think he's better than he's getting credit for. So we're going to show him a little love today and talk about him. Let's look at his skills, and then we'll talk about how to gear him and stuff. B tier attack, B tier crit rate, C tier everything else, that's fine. He's got a very cool trait. When he's ascended, he deals 80% damage to all enemies and a bonus attack when this character or a team member defeats an enemy. This ability may only be triggered once per turn for ally kills, but any number of times for this character's kills. So you can set off a chain reaction, as you'll see later in the video when we show him off in arena and some of the other places we're going to take him. He can set off a chain reaction and actually clear a whole wave one enemy at a time because he keeps doing AoE attacks every time someone dies. Now, if another team member triggers it, again, he can set off a chain reaction. But if a team member keeps getting kills, they're not going to keep triggering the trait. They'll trigger it once. And then if Zachary's getting kills, it'll continue to trigger. Okay, that's basically what that means. It's a really cool trait, and it's nasty. You're going to see it in action later in the video, and it's pretty cool, okay? One thing to note about his trait, at the time of recording this anyway, is that so far the only issue I found this with is Charles. Charles does bonus damage based on his defense. If the bonus damage is what kills the enemy, this won't trigger. So if you're running Zachary with Charles and getting kills with Charles and it's not proccing his trait, there's some issue there. I have been talking with the developers about it. I've sent them video of it not working. I have really argued my case for why that should not be the way it's intended to work. I don't know if they're going to fix it. At the time of recording this, that's the way it is. So if you're running him with Charles and seeing that, that's why. Hopefully we can get that changed, because I don't think it makes sense that just because Charles's bonus damage is getting the kill, it's not counting. But that I wanted to mention that in case you run into that issue and are confused about it. On his A1, 100% damage to an enemy and grants attack up to himself. This is pretty nice. Gives himself a buff when he has to use his A1. His special, on a 3-turn cooldown, deals 150% damage to an enemy plus 50% bonus damage if the target has less than 50% of max health remaining. This is really cool again because the whole bread and butter of Zachary is enemies dying. So if someone's at 50% or under 50%, this is more likely to get the kill, right? Depending on where you are, especially arena, this is more likely to get the kill. This is nice. And then you can start to trigger that trait and really do some damage. He can really wreck a team. And then the skill ups here just give him more damage. It stays on a 3-turn cooldown. His ultimate, 150% damage to all enemies. The fewer the enemies left, the more damage this attack deals. Again, his kit makes a lot of sense. It works very well together because his trait's constantly going to be proccing when he's getting kills, which means there's going to be less enemies. So the next time you come around to his ult, you're going to do more damage, which just makes it more likely. By the time you use his ult a second time, fight's probably over. You know what I mean? There's probably not going to be too much going on by the time you get around to his ult again. Excuse me. So we've got a fire damage dealer here. We've got AoE on the ult. We've got AoE on the trait. We've got burst single target damage here that can trigger AoE on the trait. And then he buffs himself with his A1 as well. Pretty nice. There's also a lot of other champs you can run with him. I run him with Connor a lot, who gives him an attack buff. I run the defense down spell with him, obviously. There's a lot of different ways you can run Zachary. And I've used him quite a bit. I've used him to push through the adventure mode. I have used him in Void Tower. We are actually, for the first time on this account, we're on Void Tower 100. I'm saving it for a free to be elite episode. If you are new here and don't know, I have a daily series on this channel where I use this account, elites only, and we're just playing the game that way. And we've made it to Void Tower 100 for the first time, so we're going to be trying to clear that in tomorrow's video probably, and see how it goes. But he's part of the team that I've used to get all the way here. Actually, what I'll do is I'll card to a video over there. It's an episode of that series where we did Void Tower floor 90, which was a real struggle for us, and Zachary was on that team. So you get to see how he contributes even in some of the more difficult PvE environments as well, if you want to check that out. But we use him pretty much everywhere, right? He's a great fire damage dealer, and again, if you're limited on your options for AoE damage dealers and fire damage dealers, there's no reason Zachary shouldn't be getting some resources put into him. He's a really good champ. I don't think you would regret 6-starring him, to be honest. If you're earlier in the game, I think you're going to get enough out of him by the time you pulled someone else and built them up that it would be well worth it. It's also important to remember that as an elite, he's much easier to skill up, and it's much easier to get ascensions in him. So someone like a Valeria obviously is much better, but you can max this dude out fairly easily, fairly early in the game, and by the time you get that Valeria or someone else that would replace him, you've probably gotten enough out of him to justify the resources that he took. You know what I'm saying? So that's my argument for him. Let's talk about his gear. It's fairly straightforward on his gear. I've got him in full warrior sets. There are a few different ways you could go here. Basically, you are looking for crit rate, crit damage, attack percentage in his substats. He doesn't need focus. He doesn't need a ton of speed. It's nice to have a little bit of speed on him if you depending on what you're doing with him, but generally in arena, you're probably running with some sort of booster, or at least a team that could protect him a little bit so that it doesn't matter that he doesn't have the speed. And you see mine has +2 speed, and I've told you everywhere I'm using him, and it works. The struggle is the waves. You'll notice if you go watch that Void Tower 90 video that I'm talking about, we struggle a little bit to keep him alive in the waves. If we had speed on him, maybe we could take some enemies out and he would take less hits, but again, this is all really preference and how you want to use him. Attack percentage on the boots, crit rate / crit damage on the ring, attack percentage on the amulet, and then again in your subs, you're looking for attack percentage, crit rate, crit damage. You just want to beef this dude's damage up as much as you can. Okay, it's basically the more damage, the better, the nastier he's going to be. As far as what sets would be good on him, warrior sets are great, rage sets are great. I don't think a curse set would honestly be that bad. I think a curse set actually would be pretty fun on him, and I might give it a shot when we have the gear for it, because if he does a bonus attack with his A1, he's attack buffing himself every time that procs. So let's say we start the fight off with our ult, he ults, then bonus attacks, he's setting himself up with an attack buff for when we use his A2, and if we've used his ult, there's probably an enemy below 50% health. The attack buff that he puts on himself after the curse proc makes it that much more likely he'll get the kill next time with his A2, right? So I think a curse set could be pretty fun on him. Not to mention that then he starts proccing traits and all that stuff, so that's pretty nice. Avarice set, not a bad idea for him either, right? Avarice boosts your AoE damage. His ult is AoE and his trait is AoE. You get a lot more out of that trait under an Avarice set. Probably not a bad idea. Assassin set. I believe Assassin set is potential to do 50% more damage to the main target, if I'm not mistaken. No reason that one's a bad option either. Doesn't do much for the trait because I don't know that there's a target, but every other skill you are clicking someone, even the AoE, I think there's a main target that you click that should apply to there as well. So Assassin set if you wanted to give it a shot, but I really think these 4 sets are the way to go. If you're earlier game, Warrior, you do get some decent Rage gear earlier in the game, so Rage is a possibility. And then a little bit later as you're farming, I think Cursed and Avarice are going to be pretty good on him as well. I don't know a lot about all the new sets yet, so I can't recommend any of those off the top of my head, but these 4 sets will have you squared away. And that's it. Again, attack percentage, crit rate, crit damage are the main stats you're looking for him. As you get a little bit further, maybe you're a little higher in arena, having some precision on him is probably not a terrible idea so that he doesn't get deflected a lot, but that's something you'll worry about later. For now, it's just those 3 main stats that you want to really beef up on him. So now what we'll do is we'll take a look at him in arena and then a little bit of PvE content. You can see him in action. You can see what this trait is all about, and hopefully by the end of it we have convinced you that he's worth some resources. He's not a chump. Everybody chill out on my man Zachary here, all right? All right, I'll see you in arena. And there you go. There's a good example. I think that gives a good example of what he's capable of. What happens when that trait starts to go off over and over again. You can really run through some teams, and it enables you to output a lot more damage. If you can kill one person on a team that might seem like they're a little bit too strong for you, he can chain reaction his way around them and make the fight much more doable. So, like I said, he's a very, very solid champ. I know I said we would do some PvE in this video too, but I think the point was just to showcase the trait, showcase what it looks like so you can see it in action. And again, I've mentioned the Void Tower 90 video. If you want to see some like much tankier PvE content with him in it doing the things he does, you can check that video out. But again, I think the point's kind of made. He's a solid champ. He's a great attacker. He's got a really fun kit. It's really fun to watch that trait keep going off, and I don't think you would regret investing in him. I think in almost every single case, he's going to be well worth the resources you would put in him, even if you do eventually outgrow him, depending on what you're doing on your account, if you're pulling a bunch of Legos and whatever. But I know that for us, Zachary's going to be one on this account that I'm probably going to use forever, because it's elites only, and he is among the best elite attackers in my opinion. So hopefully this helps you if you were looking for a way to build him, maybe needed a little convincing, maybe you'd heard some people bad-mouthing him and wanted to see if that was true. I don't think it is. I think he's a fantastic champ. I highly recommend that you build him. I think you'll get a lot out of him. If you have any other tips for him you want to drop below, if you're using him in any other comps or any other content that you think would be interesting for everybody to hear, I'm all about you guys helping each other in the comments. Otherwise, I'm going to get out of here. Like this video if you got something out of it. Subscribe if you want to see more of what I'm doing, and I will see you guys later.